you all showed up. Great. It's 8:01 here in California. And today it's going to go up to, hold on, let me see. Hey Siri, what is 102 degrees Fahrenheit in Celsius, please?
102 degrees Fahrenheit is 38.9 degrees
38.9 degrees.
Oh.
So almost 39, almost 39 Celsius today. And yes, almost 40, right?
Mm.
And tomorrow it's going to be even hotter.
Wow.
So we don't understand why, but it's, hey, let's not even get into it.
Now we have Anya online as well. Hello, Anya.
Oh, Anya.
Hi
Good.
there. To see you.
Hi. Okay, good. So I think this is absolutely wonderful. I think we should just start. What do you think?
Go ahead. I'll
Good.
mute myself for the time
Well,
being.
actually, you're introducing me.
Oh, yes. Sorry
Remember?
about that.
So, oh, no worries, no worries.
Yeah, let's do that first.
And then you're going to introduce yourself, and then people will know that we're legitimate.
Yeah.
You know.
So I think we should start with our guest today, Maria Nemeth, who I have had the pleasure of working with for some years. And when this Corona time started, we in ICF said that we should get some more webinars going. And I asked Maria if she could do something exclusively for all you guys who are in ICF. And she couldn't say no. So she...
No.
She's a MCC coach and a founder of the Academy for Coaching Excellence, which is a wonderful coaching academy, according to me, and a very long experience in coach training. And I would say, for me, showed myself the way that we're meant to live for myself, which is part of her purpose. So I got a lot of great tools from you, Maria. Thank you for that.
Oh, listen, it's my pleasure. And, you know, the truth is, just because it's us coaches, I've actually been working with people now for 50 years. Oh, yeah. I like to say to folks that I was a child when I started, but, you know, half a century, it's quite something. So let's introduce you now.
Yeah, and I've been a coach and just gonna see if I can switch picture here. I'm also a representative for ICF, what we call the cyber chapter right now. And I'm a consultant and a coach, and also right now working as a sergeant for the Swedish military in the.
And we are so proud. We are so proud that you're doing that.
Thank you. So I have my coach training through the academy, and my life purpose is to support people to stand up for themselves and what they want to take a stand for. So, and
let me just say, and I just want to say that Sandra is the person, Sandra and her partner, Ulrika, they are the people who are the center for the Academy for Coaching Excellence in all the Nordic countries. So any questions you have, you can always reach them and they will answer them. They are representatives of the Academy. So
thank you.
I am, wow, are you kidding? I am so grateful that the two of you are there.
Great. So what are we going to talk about today, Maria?
Well, we're going to be looking at how to lead an effective cyber group. And I am going to cover it from two angles. One thing that I promise is not to show too many slides, because I just want to have a conversation with you about leading effective groups in general, because I think we can look at principles for leading an effective group in general, they apply to cyber groups. They apply to cyber groups. I want to start by, in addition to thanking ICF for having me, I'm always privileged to speak to coaches because my philosophy is that coaching, especially now, especially what the world is experiencing, coaching really is a profession that can lead people to looking clearly at the lives that they want to live. And I know that crisis and global crisis leads us to re-examine our lives from a different angle. And coaches are uniquely experienced to help people do this. So it's incredibly important that we step up to the plate, as we say in the United States, declare that this profession is one that will support people in their lives. So having said that, now cyber groups seem to be the way to go because I read so much daily about travel and how people feel about getting together in groups, which obviously is because of everything we're going through. So meeting personally in groups right now is not something that people are looking to do. I consult with a number of corporations now, and they hold all of their meetings via cyber group. But I want to talk about cyber coaching groups, if that's okay with you. And what I can do is answer any questions that you have about groups in general, because I think what I'm going to be talking about really can be applied to groups in general. And there is a chat space. Sandra, would you show people how to reach the chat space so that they can ask me questions or give me their opinions about what I'm saying?
Yes, if you go to the top of your screen, you will get up the menu for Zoom, and you can click on the chat symbol, and then you will get up chat space on your screen. And you make sure that you click in the everyone so that everyone gets your message if that's what you want, or you can also choose to send just a message to me during the webinar, and I will forward any questions to Maria when the time is good.
Good. And what I'd like you to do right now, Sandra, is take down the slide, and so people can see me, you know, talking with them
good.
in person a little more.
So, okay.
And while she's doing that, so we're going to be looking at groups from two different angles. The first is that we're going to be looking at 4 principles that must be present when you are leading any group and any cyber group, whether it be for business or whether it be a cyber coaching group. And I'm going to put in a special plug for you all to lead some cyber coaching groups, because the people need coaching right now, and many of them may not have the finances to be able to afford a full fee, but they could afford being in a group with you. And of course, if that were true, that you as a coach could be end up making more money out of leading groups. So the first thing we're going to be looking at, what are the 4 principles that must be covered in order to know that you are leading an effective cyber group? And Sandra, for this one, put up the 4 principles. We might as well go right to that.
So
there we go. There we go. Very good. So these are the 4 principles. They are certainty, clarity, structure, and relationship. So I want to go over these with you and ask for any questions about what I'm talking about. So, in order to begin this, I want you to imagine that when we are with a group of people for 20 minutes, there is something that begins to happen. Whether we are together in the same room or in the same cyber room, there's something that begins to happen. We all become entrained with one another. Entrained means that we begin to fall into an identity of being a member of a group. Many people who study groups call this group mind. And if any of you have studied with Tavistock, for example, in England, they talk about a version of something that I call group mind. Group mind is a phenomenon. Have you ever seen birds flying? And you see the flock of birds flying together, and they change shape and they change direction very quickly. You know what I'm talking about, yes? And if any of you are on the chat space, you can always say yes or no. So if you want to put your answer there. You know, scientists really haven't figured out what exactly is happening, but they do know, and this is very interesting, they do know that birds, when they're entrained in a group, they can shift their direction in flying much more quickly than when the bird is alone. So this actually, it's called murmuration when you're looking at a flock of birds, murmuration. That's M-U-R-M-U-R-A-T-I-O-N. And if any of you go onto Google and look at murmuration, you'll see pictures of these birds flying together. And also there are groups of animals that act as though they are one mind. Well, so it is with human beings. When we are together for about 20 minutes, we begin to, without knowing it consciously, we begin to form into kind of an identity of being group and having something called group mind. Now, when you see that and you're leading any group, this simplifies things for you immediately, because the first thing that needs to be addressed when you're leading a group is group mind. Not worrying about individuals so much, but keeping your gaze on the possibility that people who are together for 20 minutes begin in many ways to act as one mind. Now, this has incredible implications for us, and if we had 24 hours, I could go into it with you, but I just want to talk about the 4 principles that must be present in order to have group mind be calm and receptive to what you have to say or teach or coach them. So am I clear so far? Or are there spaces in the chat? Are there things people are saying yet, Sandra?
No, not just confirming the picture of murmuration right now.
Okay, great, good.
What do you mean with group mind? Is a
So-
question from...
So group mind is a phenomenon that is created when people are together for about 20 minutes, in which they begin to behave in some ways, somewhat as individuals, but also as a particular part of something bigger than they are individually. We know this from certain studies because when people are entrained in a group, in many ways they end up doing things that they would never do as an individual. And one of these, if you want to see an example, there is something called the Stanford prison experiment that was conducted about 30, 40 years ago, which created a whole series of ethics about how to lead groups. Because in this prison experiment, they took students, normal students, and they had one group of students act as prisoners and one group of students act as guards. And they put them in a situation in which they were like in a prison situation. The experiment was going to be for 2 weeks, but they had to call it off after, I think, 5 or 6 days because people, the students who were guards were becoming mean and sadistic, almost sadistic. And the students who were prisoners, a couple of them literally broke down and had to leave the experiment even earlier than the 6 days. And what was happening? Well, the group of prison guards, people were being entrained together and doing things that as an individual they would never consider doing. And so it was also with the prisoners. They were staging hunger strikes. They were angry and screaming at the guards. I mean, it was a terrible situation. And afterwards, there was a whole group of standards of ethics that was created so that something like this would never, ever, ever happen again. But it did illustrate the fact that when we're together, whether we like it or not, sometimes when we're experiencing in a group being happy, or we're experiencing in a group being upset or nervous or anxious, the question becomes, and I say this to people when I'm leading a group sometimes, the question becomes, am I feeling my feelings, or am I picking up on what's happening in the group? Now, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? At this point, I just wanted to say that really group mind is a phenomenon that you want to take care of when you're leading a group. You want to notice, you want to be aware of, you want to be conscious of. And so there were 4 principles that I developed over the years for how to create a space for the group mind to be favorable to what you have to say. How do you do it? And these are 4 principles that when you observe them as a group leader, it's important that you cover. The first is certainty. Now, what does certainty mean? Once again, we could spend a whole day on certainty, but I want to give you some highlights. Certainty means that when you are the leader, you imagine that what you're saying, you are being very certain of, that you're not using too many words to talk about what you mean, and that you look for, when you're speaking, do you use a lot of filler words? One group I'm leading right now, there's a young woman who says like about every other word. Like, it's like when I like go out and I like see my friends, and like, you know what I'm saying. And one of the things that I'm teaching her to do is cutting out those extra words. So certainty has to do with how you are presenting yourself as the leader. I'll give you an example of something that happened when I was leading a group once. I was in a hotel. There were, at least a couple hundred people there. And no windows in the room. And all of a sudden, in the middle of us talking about something, I was going to put them through a certain exercise, that the lights went out. Now, you could imagine group mind becoming very anxious, yes? So I had to create certainty. And so I said to them, if you'll notice, the lights have just gone out. Now, what do you think they responded with? How do you think they responded? You know, just put in the chat space. How do you think they responded when, after the lights is gone? Laughter, exactly. You know what I mean. They laughed. And the laughter was a release of tension, because the leader was creating certainty. And I said to them, I'll bet we can go through what I have to show you without the lights on. And so I began to lead them through a very simplified version of this experiment. And after about 6 minutes, the light went back on. What do you think some of them said? You can put it in the chat space. What do you think some of them said, at least? I mean, I'll tell you what they said, but if you put it in the chat space, Sandra can read it to me. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'll tell you. Oh, yes, turn off the light. Exactly. Some of them said, oh, come on, we're having such fun with the lights off. Can we turn them off, please? And that's because they were in the space of certainty. See, so when you create certainty, and there's so many different ways, and you can, even just having the word certainty in front of you as you're beginning to lead a cyber group, for example, you can have all these little notes in the side that you can look at that you couldn't do it if you were in a real group necessarily, with everybody looking at what papers you have on your desk. If you even looked at the word certainty ever so often, you'd begin to create certainty. The second principle is clarity. So you become clear with people about things such as, this is the purpose of this group. You know, the purpose of this group, for example, is for you to gain some skills in being successful at running cyber groups. So are you able to say with clarity why the group is together? Because the minute you do, you are preparing group mind, once again, to receive what you have to say or what you have to lead. Any questions about that? Always be clear with the group about the purpose. Always be clear with the group about the reason, for example, in addition to the purpose, if you're going to do a group experiment, be clear with them about what it's about. Be clear about any instructions that you give the group. Once again, try not to use a lot of filler words, but say only what needs to be said. Very important for a leader. Because if you don't, group mind will start to get nervous. And you don't want a nervous group mind, right? Because I know you've been around nervous group mind before, and it's not a very pretty sight, is it? Nope, nope. And you're trying to call everybody back, like, you know, and all of a sudden the group is getting anxious and you don't know what to do. No, we don't want that. So clarity about instructions, clarity about purpose. Structure. Structure is about how you're going to carry out what the group is about. So for example, you heard me say at the beginning, we're going to be looking at a successful group, cyber group from two angles. And one has to do with preparing group mind, and the second is going to be preparing the group leader. Now, I didn't say it exactly in those ways, but my message to you was to give you a sense of structure, including you have a place where you can put your comments, your chats, because you want people to know what they can expect. So structure is, how are we going to carry this out? Clear? Any questions? Any thoughts? Is this useful?
And you can also unmute yourself if you want to say
yeah, please.
A question in the space. That's okay too.
Please, please, please. Hello, anybody? Hello?
Hi, Maria. I'm going to quote Maria Nemeth here.
Please.
Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you told them.
That's it. Mm-hmm. That's part of that's actually part of creating clarity and structure. Thank you, Janet. Anybody else?
Yeah, Ralph is asking a question in the space. Do you communicate the principles with your group, or you just yourself make sure?
Hold on just a second. So hold on just a second. My computer is doing something.
Mm.
Please say that again.
The question from Ralph is, do you communicate the principles with your group, or do you just make sure they are there?
Well, you know, it depends upon what you're comfortable with. You know, you can, I think you can be certain, so you don't have to communicate that necessarily. But you can say, I want to be clear with you about the purpose of this group. And you can say, and I want you to know how this group is going to be structured. That's good. So you can always do that. Regarding certainty, that's more of a, you know, a way of being. So it's what you are projecting to the group. It also has to do with the fact that the group knows that you know what you're talking about. Always be upfront and truthful that you know what you're talking about. Because the group will pick up very quickly if they sense that you don't know what you're talking about, that what you're saying is just off the top of your head versus you really mean what you say, And not only do you mean what you say, you are certain within yourself that you can carry this out. Okay, so the things I've learned about leading group, what I'm teaching you right now are ways to avoid group mind from taking a nip out of you. You hear what I'm saying? You don't want to have a bunch of bite marks all over you from group mind that is finding fault with everything you're saying. And the only reason that they're doing that is because they're nervous or anxious. You know,
Tuya
does
is actually giving you a comment about that, Maria.
Who is?
Tuya?
Yeah, please, Tuya, what is the comment? I want to hear.
It's she says certainty is also one of the domains which will trigger the limbic system, the amygdala, if you're not taken care of, and the consequences of limited thinking capacity.
You got it. Yes. Oh, yes. This is, Coach, you are 100% correct. This is how to keep group amygdala from heating up. Okay? Because the minute group amygdala heats up, it hijacks the creative centers. And I think that's what was happening with the Stanley Milgram experiment, the Stanford prison experiment. The amygdala was just triggered. So you can always look up the Stanford prisoner experiment. It's very disturbing to watch. I'm just warning you. So any other questions?
Maria, you said something also about the first 20 minutes. Do you want to comment that more clearly?
Yes, the first 20 minutes, in the first 20 minutes, this phenomenon happens, that there is a, you might say, an underlying consciousness. We are very, as human beings, we are exquisitely sensitive to social cues of any kind. You know, I could give you the reasons why this is the case. One of the reasons is because when we're in our primitive state, you know, I have a seminar in which I talk about the fact that our brain hasn't changed much in 100,000 years. That's what scientists are seeing. The only change has come about in the past 7,000 to 9,000 years, is that we developed blue eyes. But other than that, the brain you and I have is not too different from the brain people had 100,000 years ago. I'll just let you sink in for a minute, you know? And I can give you this really quick thought experiment if you want. And that is, let's imagine that we, as a group, our tribe, we are in a cave 100,000 years ago. Okay, so imagine that. We're a tribe. And we are about to leave the cave because we're hungry and we want some lunch. Okay? So imagine we are about to leave the cave and to step out into the open looking for some food. Okay? What is the first thing your brain is going to look for? What is the first thing your brain is going to look? Please put it in the chat space, folks. Danger.
Danger.
Who else? Who else? Come on, coaches. Let me hear from you. What is the first thing your brain is going to look for? Wild animals.
Yes. What
What
are
are
the
the
others?
others doing? Yeah, that's one of the things. And what are the other people doing? And we're looking for predators. Do you see that? The first thing our brain is going to look for is, are there any tigers out there? Are there any woolly mammoths out there? Is it safe out there? Because the people who had brains that didn't look for danger first, they didn't survive because they were someone else's lunch before they could have their own. That people who are, who we are, we've inherited brains that look for danger first before food. It's called the negativity bias. You all can look it up in Googling again, the negativity bias. Some scientists have said that our brain is like Velcro for negative events. You know what Velcro is, it sticks.
Cardboard in Swedish.
Okay, great. And like Teflon for positive events. What is Teflon in
Yeah,
Swedish?
it's Teflon. Yeah.
Teflon.
Teflon.
Like that. Like that. Got it? So, therefore, when you're first with a group of people, they're going to look at immediately whether or not they can trust you, whether or not they can take in what you have to say. And so the fourth principle is relationship. Relationship can be created by saying things like, we're going to be doing this, whatever we're doing in the group, we're going to be doing this because I am dedicated to having you get exactly what you came for in this group. And of course, by you expressing that you are delighted to be with the people in this group. You see? So the relationship comes last only because any real showing of that you're here to support people to get what they want, they'll only listen to you about that if you've covered these other principles first, because the group mind can relax and say, yeah, I do want to be coached by this person, or I do want to listen to this person, or it is safe to listen to this person. It's okay to listen to this person. Now, I'm going to step back for a moment and I'm going to ask Sandra, can you get us out of this showing these slides so that people
yeah.
look great? Just
You want to share something else or just?
No, just you can put them down.
Okay.
There you go. Perfect, 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 perfect. Now I can see more people here. Oh, how great. How wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you can, please put on your camera. It's so nice to
please. I would
see
love to
everyone.
be able to see you all. Oh, how great. Heini, are you there? I'd love to see you. And Nina, I'm seeing, oh, how great. Hans? Heini, thank you. Thank you for turning on camera. Anya, oh, this is great. Oh, I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled.
Yeah, we can
all
say
of you.
something about that, Maria, when we're leading cyber groups, that we
Please.
always recommend all people to have the camera on if possible. I mean, of course, if you're driving a car or something, which you shouldn't, then don't.
Please don't.
But if you have a planned seminar, it's so much more relationship if people have the camera on. So we always tell people to do that when we have longer seminars together.
And the other thing is that, do you see how far I am away from the camera? That's so that you can see my hands as I talk. So I'm intentionally further away Yeah, thank you, Anya. That's really great. So, so that people can see more of you when you are talking with them. Because once again, we are so tuned in to social cues. Hans, do you have a camera? I'd love to know. Okay, maybe he's
Yeah,
maybe he's not here.
maybe here. It's on a break.
All right. All
Okay.
right. So, what are your questions? What are your thoughts about what you hear me saying before we go on to the next section? I want to spend about 4 minutes on this, and then I have this next section I want to give you. So, anything.
Any questions or thoughts or just...
Any questions? Yes. Oh, and the other thing for you to know is that I'm very comfortable with silences. But if you do have something you want to say, coaches, it would be useful.
I have a question, Maria.
Thank you, Karin.
If you said these things that we are talking here about here, we can also have in an ordinary group. And if I think about a leader, a CEO or a boss or something, to have the same group all the time, you also have these 4 principles with that group every week, I think.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Always. Always.
So it's important for the, if I do supervision with a boss and coach also, this is the 4 principles I can also talk about for that
Absolutely.
person.
You have my permission to use this, coaches. I want to give this to you, and feel free to use it.
Were you okay with that, Karen?
Yes, yes.
Lotta is also asking you to say some more about relationship, Maria.
Yes, good. I'm glad you're asking. Relationship occurs when people feel connected to you, when people experience that it's safe to talk to you and to be around you. And this next section I'm about to talk about increases the sense of relationship. So the purpose of this next part, which I'm starting in about a minute, is about how to create relationship. But the first thing is, when you see a group of people that you're about to lead, are you delighted to see them? This is not a rhetorical question. Are you delighted to see them? You know?
Of course.
Because it's important for you to let them know if you are. Are you dedicated to giving them as much as you can give them for the time that you have together? If you are, it's important to let them know. People want to know from you who you are and what you stand for. Not that you're just a talking head, especially in cyber groups. Because you see, the difference, one of the clear differences in a cyber group is that people are forced in many ways just to stare at the screen. You know, when we're together, normally in a group, people can be looking all over the place, or maybe they have sidebar conversations with each other, or they may get up and get some coffee and come back to the group, or what have you. There's a lot of extra communication going on in a regular group. But in a cyber group, you see, people are made to be literally look at you and look at each other in a very singular, simple way. And after a while, people can become very, very tired, exhausted after looking at you and each other for long periods of time. So it's important for you to keep the energy up in the group mind, in the group space. And one of the ways to keep the energy up is if people are very clear that you are delighted to be with them, that it's your privilege to be with them. And they know it in their hearts. Does this help?
Could I ask a question?
Please.
I'm just curious about the order of those 4 principles. In my mind, when you're speaking, I would like to see relationship as number 1.
Well, believe it or not, a certain part of relationship is number 1. For example, when you say, I'm glad we're all here. But if you were to say to a group, I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that you get exactly what you came for. That's a kind of a statement that maybe some of the group members might take in at the beginning, okay? But more often than not, I have discovered that if I can be certain with them, I can be clear, I can let them know there's a structure, that I gain some credibility with the group. So that when I say to them, and I'm going to give you everything I can in this period of time, so that we can, so that you can get exactly what you came for. At that point, the group will say, all right, okay, this person, I think this person has what it takes. You see what I'm saying? You want to be credible with the group, so that when you let them know that you are dedicated to having them get exactly what they want, that they believe you. Okay, she means what she says. I can tell. All right. You know, this person is on the ball. This person knows what they're talking about. Because especially with brilliant people, there's always those, listen, I've heard a lot of seminars, I've been to a lot of cyber groups, people might say, so I'm not a naive group. And so especially when you're dealing with people who are fairly sophisticated, I found that those 4 principles in the order I've given, those are the way I've given them usually works. Does that help? Good. All right. We're going on to the next half. And in order to do this, I'm going to do with you something that I have just learned how to do. And it's very exciting for me. I am going to go to a whiteboard. So, Sandra?
Yes.
I think, let's see if I can do it here.
You should be able to do it. Yeah.
Did it happen?
Yep. You're on.
Okay. All right. This is so exciting, folks. I have to let you know. So get ready in about, Sandra, get ready in about 15 minutes
Yeah.
to show the lens, okay?
Okay, good.
Good. So I'm going to talk with you about how to prepare yourself to be present to a group. Because groups know, I've said before, we are very conscious of social interactions. And a group will pick up what you're thinking about them. And I'll tell you why in what I'm about to do. There's a construct that I developed about 4 years ago. Not 4 years ago, actually, it was more like 34 years ago. It's how our brains create our experience of reality. And it has 4 boxes in it. So I call it the 4-box model. Very sophisticated here. So I'm drawing these 4 boxes. And once again, I am so excited to be able to do this. Sandra, how does it look?
It looks great.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, you should have seen the first drawing, folks.
Not so good, folks.
No, this is good. This is perfect.
I've been practicing.
Yep.
So,
And please practice you too. This is a very fun tool to work with.
yes, incidentally, on Zoom, there's a way, if you have an iPad, there's a way for you to be able to connect on Zoom so that you can use your iPad to draw. So, box number 1, this is box number 1 right here. And box number 1, we put the word conclusion. Now I'm going to have C stand for conclusion. What this means is this. This is how our brain creates its own experience of reality. And those of you who are familiar with neuroscience, I think you'll find this to be very much in keeping with some of the things you already know. But I don't claim to be saying anything that you don't already know. I've just put it in a certain structure to show how it works. So what we say by C is the word conclusion. Now, what this says is that our brain functions by creating mental models of reality. There's a book that was written, about 15 years ago now, called Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, who talked about that we have conclusions, ways of mapping reality that we can either be conscious of or unconscious of, but nevertheless, they still exist. So, so we have mental models about, well, to give you an example, a mental model might be what you think about groups coming into the group. I used to work with people who, when they would come into a group, the immediate thing that they would think is, this is going to take forever. This is when they went to staff meetings. You know, we're going to take forever. We're going to go through the same thing again and again and again. We're not going to get anything done. People are bringing their laptops and their cups of coffee. And we know that this is just going to be, you know, not very productive at all. So the question becomes, what are the conclusions that we as group leaders have about the groups that we're leading? Because, and I'm giving you a very, very short overview of this, but because whenever you and I focus upon a conclusion, our brain will automatically start gathering evidence to, oh my dear, I erased the whole thing. I'm going to start again. So C is conclusion. Okay. I love this. It's making me do it faster. But coaches, one of the reasons I like the whiteboard is because it's more dynamic than watching slides. And people seem to like the dynamic quality. So there we go. And once again, conclusion. The minute you and I focus on conclusions, our brain will automatically try to give us evidence to support the conclusion. You know, our brain is like a Google search engine. And by that I mean, when we lived in caves 100,000 years ago, and we really needed to look for danger, we could focus on danger, and our brain would then begin to gather evidence for the presence of danger, because scientists have said there's more survival value in making a mistake about over subscribing, or, you know, thinking that there's danger when there isn't, than thinking there is no danger when in fact there is. So our brain has been developed to look for evidence, even if we have to make up evidence. But the brain wants to know that whatever conclusion we are focused upon, that we will gather evidence for. So, you know, there's this old saying that whatever you focus on and gather evidence for will actually show up in physical reality. Well, that's really a long way of saying that you can find reasons for focusing upon whatever it is you want to focus on in life. So is this clear so far, coaches? And I can't see the chat space, so.
Oh, I'll say if something shows up.
Okay, great. So the third box is whatever I focus upon affects my behavior, how I behave. I'm just going to be with the B. So whatever I focus upon, it's like stimulus response. And, you know, many of us have probably seen this in the Olympics, where let's say an athlete that's about to run a track run, you see them sitting by the side of the road with their eyes closed. They are mentally practicing the run, because the brain doesn't know the difference between what we are making up and that which exists in really in physical reality. So if you close your eyes and practice something, it's shown that the brain becomes activated as though we were doing the thing itself. So whatever I'm focusing upon will, in fact, affect my behavior. Now, how I behave automatically creates the conditions for how other people behave. So I'm going to put behave to for how they behave. Okay? And how other people behave then strengthens the conclusion, strengthens it. So the question becomes, what conclusions can I focus upon as a group leader that will create a context in which people in a group feel that they can trust me and can actually end up doing some good work, whether it's coaching work or it's you're being a consultant to the group, or you're a group leader. So the question becomes, what is it that I myself can focus upon so that I am creating a context for a group in which everyone has the experience that all is well, that they can trust me. So, any questions about what I'm saying so far, coaches? You see, because this happens over and over and over again. This is literally in relationships, having to do with our work, anything. It's these 4 boxes over and over and over again. Now, let me say, before I ask you once again if you have any comments, let me say that you and I do not, this is very difficult to say, but you and I do not have control over our behavior. We don't. In the brain, and by the way, you and I, you are not your brain. You have a brain. You have 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, and a brain. And you are not your brain. You are that which has the capacity to observe your brain. And you are that which has the capacity to literally change your brain. And that's being shown more and more in all kinds of research. So if we want to change our brain, the question becomes, what is it that we do have power over? What do we have choice about? What is it that we can control? And of course, the answer is we can control what we choose to focus on. Is this clear? So I'm going to stop. Okay. Oh, great. So
Yeah.
from, is L8?
Yeah, I think it's Lotta.
Okay, Lotta, that's clear. Okay. Anybody else? Well, okay. So I'm imagining that this is very clear for people. I hope this is useful. So I am going to stop sharing. And so what do you think, coaches? Incidentally, I suggest that you may want to try using, if you, maybe some of you are already doing it, but you may want to try to use this whiteboard function in Zoom to be able to draw things for folks.
And practice a little bit ahead.
Exactly.
It seems easy, but it's a bit tricky.
Yeah, but it's fun. So let's show the next slide then, okay?
Yes.
So what can you focus on? So let's consider, folks, that conclusions are like lenses. By that I mean, when your brain is gathering evidence to support the conclusion, it's not gathering evidence for anything else. It's only really interested in gathering evidence that you are, for what you're focusing on. And we do have control over what we focus on. So there are 5 statements which, when you focus on this, as a group leader, you are, and when you begin to gather evidence for these things, you are automatically creating a context for trust, a context for relationship to show up. So I'm going to go through each and every one of these so you can see what I mean by this. This is something that I created a long time ago and really has helped me when I've been leading groups. The first one is this. This group is made up of heroes who are whole and complete. And one of the people that's influenced my work is Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell was a really gifted philosopher and student of anthropology. He wrote a book, must have been about 50 years now ago, called The Hero with a Thousand Faces. Joseph Campbell was one of George Lucas's mentors. And you can see this in all of the Star Wars movies, because the Star Wars movies have to do with the journey of heroes that each movie creates. And George Lucas said at one point, if it wasn't for Joseph Campbell, my first Star Wars movie would never have gotten off of my desk. But Joseph Campbell taught me a lot about heroes throughout the ages. And there is a series of interviews with Joseph Campbell and Bill Moyers. And I'll put that in the chat space, Bill Moyers. You can Google that, and it's an exquisite series of interviews where he talks about heroes throughout history. Joseph Campbell and Bill Moyers.
Thank you.
Okay, yep. And you may want to look at this, folks. It's wonderful. It might even be streaming now. For sure, it's on DVD. So I really took this to heart over the years. And I said, what if we consider that everybody on this planet is made up of heroes? You know, that we're all on our own journey. We confront obstacles, but you know, and we take chances, and we win some things and we lose some things. But whole and complete means it's a statement that says, if there is absolutely nothing wrong with people, even if they think that there's something wrong with them, that if a person, for example, is not successful in life, it's not because there's anything wrong with them or their goal or their dream, and they worry about that, that the case is that they have not acquired certain success skill sets, which if they acquired them, they would be successful. So when I gather evidence for the fact that this group is made up of heroes who are whole and complete, I'm not gathering any evidence for that there's something wrong with them. I'm actually glad to be in their presence. The second is that this group has a purpose and a desire to make a difference. So every person who is in a group wants to make a difference. It may be making a difference with each other in the group, or it may be that you're working with a group that wants to make a difference in society, or make a difference in a community, or make a difference with a certain client. But that groups always have purposes and a desire to make a difference Once again, whether it's with groups, with the members between themselves, or the group and some outward people or communities. The next is that there's wisdom in this group. And I tell you, when I've really focused on this, I don't have to work hard because I don't have to solve things for the group. I don't have to give a lot of advice. All I need to do is provide this context within which people can show up and say what's really important to them. So really that the group has the people in this group have voices of wisdom. And if I can really create the context within which people can relax, their voice of wisdom will come out. The group is contributing to me right now. I always look for the ways in which any particular group is contributing to me. For example, it's really clear for me in this particular group that I'm leading that one of the things I love about coaches, and I think I said this at the beginning, is that we are dedicated to having people live the life that they were meant to live. And how important that is now, especially with the pandemic and the post-pandemic world that we're all going to be living in and creating together, and can't really predict right now. The question is, what am I seeing about this group? What am I seeing about coaches, for example, and their heart and their courage to be able to take a stand that even though we cannot predict what's going on, we can nevertheless coach people to be resilient and to meet whatever is in their lives with a sense of clarity, focus, ease, and grace. And then finally, at its heart, the group really is willing to treat each other with dignity and respect. And this is very important. I bring this out a lot, that one of the ground rules of a group is that we be willing to treat each other with dignity and respect. And when I say this out loud to a group and we have a lively conversation about what it is to listen to each other with dignity and respect, that also is creating this wonderful context of relationship where people can see that all is well. Because, coaches, in the last analysis, you want people to feel comfortable in the group, comfortable enough to express what's really happening with them, and comfortable enough to know that they can express what's happening and nothing bad will happen to them because of it. And this is so important in coaching groups, especially when someone has promised 1 week to do something and they come back to the cyber group saying that they haven't done it. How do we treat that? And I must say that one of the things that I say to people when they haven't done what they said they would do, my phrase almost always is, welcome to coaching. Because if you always did what you promised you would do, you wouldn't need coaching. So welcome to coaching. And finally, the last thing, so regarding this group green lens, if you are interested in this, all you have to do is let Sandra know, giving her your email, because one of my folks at the Academy is going to be putting this in such a way that you can add it to your cell phone, your smartphone rather, and be able to see it. It will show up like an app on your smartphone. So if any of you are interested in doing this, you only have to let Sandra know, and we will send you the way to add this to your smartphone so that you can be looking at it.
Yes.
So get me back to the so I can see everybody,
Okay.
please. Perfect. Perfect. Well, here we are again. One last thing I want to say about creating relationship in a group, which I've really seen is absolutely, it's incredible. It's very, very, it's very sweet, is if you can have people on WhatsApp together. So if you're coaching a group, it's so great to add them in a WhatsApp so that they can talk with each other in between sessions. And I've done this now. I have 7 groups that I'm leading in different capacities, and I am visiting them and listening to or reading how they're supporting each other and adding something whenever it's appropriate. So I really suggest that you may want to do that. So this is what I have to offer you, coaches, and I just hope that it's what can I say? It's useful for you, and I planned this so that our last 12 to 15 minutes we could just have together to answer any questions or to chat with one another about what you're seeing. So I'd be thrilled to hear from you, anybody.
Hi, I'm Ulrika. Thank you very much for the input. Do you see any difference with this group green lens if you're online or offline, or are they the same?
It's the same.
It's the same.
Oh yeah, it's the
Yeah.
same. Yeah. Thank you.
And there is no one more added when you're online either?
No.
No?
No. It's not necessary, you know. I do know that when I am using this, you know, when I'm viewing this as I'm leading a group, it's very sweet. You know, people appreciate being with one another. You know, the thing that you really want, especially in a cyber group, is you want people to be happy to be together, that they're supporting each other in some way. And that's one of the reasons that, including everything else I've given you, saying to put them onto the WhatsApp experience, if they're willing, is extremely rewarding for folks.
Yep.
Who else? Karina, or yes, someone else?
I was also reflecting that this 5 statements, the group green lens, it was very much applicable on one-to-one meeting as well. A very nice way of putting myself in a good mind.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I wanted to show in this 4-box model how when you focus on any conclusion, you know, your brain automatically starts to gather evidence for that. And that you and I, what we have control over, the only thing we have control over, and believe me, I've been looking for so many years, but I found, and now science is showing and meditation is showing that the only thing you and I have control over is where we want to focus our brain.
Mm.
You know, what television station do I want to put my brain in front of? So
It's
thank
very
you.
good knowledge to have now in this time of crisis as well. Where do
Yes.
I actually put my focus?
It is.
Mm.
It really is. And, you know, if invited back to the ICF, I can take this a little further for things that you can focus on. I
Well,
have
you are,
something.
Maria. You're on the 1st of June, remember?
Am I?
Yes.
Oh, great. So if you want to come on the 1st of June, I will show you something called the Gratitude Protocol. I'm doing that, yes?
Yes,
1st
you
of
are.
June? Yes. How to train your brain to disrupt anxiety.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that
if
was
you,
actually due on the coaching week, but we postponed because Maria got sick.
yes,
Yeah,
I got
so
ill. It
that's why.
wasn't COVID. It was food poisoning, but I just couldn't do it. However, when is it again? June.
The 1st of June.
So if any of you are interested in the 1st of June, I will show you a way to disrupt anxiety. And it's a definite practice. And I give you absolute permission to use this with yourself and your clients. I think you'll find it very interesting as coaches to be able to have something that you can give clients that they can practice
Yeah,
and train their brain.
you can still sign up on the ICF webpage if you want to join.
Yeah. Oh, please, please. Any of you.
And for that one, you can ask anyone to join because it's a public webinar. It doesn't have to be for members of ICF.
Karina, I saw you smiling. Oh no, you're muted. I'd love to hear what you're saying. Can you know? Do you know how to
Karina,
unmute?
or yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Karina is saying I will be. Oh, you're unmuted.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm here.
Do you happen to have any question? Anything?
For group sessions,
Yes.
cyber group sessions,
Yes.
how many people is
It's good.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it depends. You know, to tell you the truth, a lot of it depends upon your comfort. You can have anywhere from 6 to 12 people in a cyber group. The question is how many, how long is it going to be? Is it going to be an hour or 90 minutes? I think 90 minutes is absolutely perfect. If you're going to have them support each other in between sessions, and if you're going to make it clear to people that when you're coaching one of them, that you're asking everyone in the group to see what they're getting out of your coaching, so that you're treating it as though it were group mind. Because when you do, you will see that when you coach someone in the group, and I think some of you who have been leading groups anyway will see this, someone else in the group says, you know, I just got so much out of that. It was like you were coaching me. You know, and that's because the group becomes conditioned to looking for themselves at what it is they're getting out of your coaching. And if you do that, then using up to 12 people is fine. Okay. And you know, the other thing is, I suggest that you all become aware of how to use Zoom, because one of the things that you can do in Zoom is put people into, let's say if you have a coaching group of 12 people and you have 90 minutes, you might put them into 3 groups of 4 and give them 10 minutes or 15 minutes to discuss what they want to get out of the group session, so that when you come back, afterwards, people are used to talking about what it is. And they've already said it once, but if they say it to the whole group, then if there's some coaching that they need, you can coach them. But the thing that they're satisfied with is that they were put into a small group so that they could speak. And you do that, as I said, for 10 or 15 minutes at the beginning. So there are so many different wonderful functions in Zoom that allow you to work with groups.
And I also recommend that you have someone to support you in your group session, so you don't have to focus yourself on both speaking and reading the chat and doing everything on your own. We have found that to be very useful ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think we had something from Ralph. Did you want to say something, Ralph, as well? Ralph?
Yes, thank you. Just had a question, Maria. What if you lead a group where quite early it's obvious that one or two of the group members do not look upon the others with that green lens of yours? I mean, if
well,
they have a more negative view of the surrounding people.
Yes. What I would do, what's helped Ralph in those situations, I might say to whoever those people are, I might meet with them outside of the group and really talk with them about are they willing to be in this group, and are they willing to get something out of the group? Because once you do that, they can express what's going on for them, and it may be the case that they are not ready to be in a group. You know, that format isn't for them. But the thing that is wonderful when you bring them out, you know, like it could even be a 20-minute session with them, Ralph. You're putting them on notice that, hey, you better shape up here. Or else, you know, I'm going to possibly suggest that you not be in this group. Do you see? It's a way of, you know, I'm going to say this only once, folks. It's a way of showing the group that you are the alpha. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
You know, you're showing group mind that you are the alpha. Okay? You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and it also will transform this person's experience of the course or whatever you're doing, because they will wake up and see that they are actually blocking not only themselves but possibly others to learn something.
That's it. Perfect. So, my friends, we are at the end of our time together, and I just once again want to acknowledge you for being with me over these 90 minutes. And I think there are a couple of things to share, right?
Yeah, if you have time to stay on, we just wanted to share. Of course, I showed you in the chat space the upcoming ICF events, which you can find there. But also there's some things that we have on the Academy this month. It's the Energy of Money book study, which you can actually join. Is it tomorrow, Maria? Or?
Yes, it is. Let me say, I wrote the Energy of Money book, and I wrote it about 20 years ago, and it's still being considered a classic in transforming your relationship with money. It's a 7-session book study, and we've already had 2 sessions. Tomorrow is the 3rd, but they are recorded. So if you decide to join the book study, go to ACE Coach Training, you can do it, and I have a sliding scale because I don't want anybody to be left out. So if you're interested, sign up, be there tomorrow. We have about 140 people who have signed into the group, and at any given time we have about 93 people there. But you will love the space. You'll get the other sessions that have been recorded, and I promise that if you do what I ask you to do, you will transform your relationship with money. And then finally, we have put all of our courses online now, because I
Yes.
don't think I'm going to be coming to Sweden for quite a few months.
Yeah.
And if you want to know any more about the courses,
Yeah, or what we do
Yeah.
at the academy with Maria in Sweden and Scandinavia, which you can either talk to me or Ulrika, which is in this session as well. And you can schedule just a talk, you know, to see, is this anything for me? Am I interested in these coach trainings? Just let us know. And yeah, of course, the ACE coach training website as well.
yes, acecoachtraining.com/Sweden. And, you know, I'd love to see any of you who are interested in taking the course, Mastering Leadership Excellence, which we're going to be giving in a few months. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, here we are.
Here we are.
Thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to seeing some of you June 1st, and maybe some of you tomorrow in the book study, okay? So have a wonderful day, coaches, okay? Bye-bye for now.
Thank
Hej då.
you. Hej då.